Hi, I'm Elaine Bechtold, founder of Money Measures. This is a video about our approach to budgeting as well as our web app. If you already have a budget, you can enter it into our web app to see how it'll play out through your bank account. Whether you do or don't have a budget, you will likely see and hear some things in this video that are new ideas, new concepts, because we definitely have a unique approach when it comes to budgeting. We believe in first having you create what we call a habits-based budget, which is simply entering information about the income that you're expecting to receive in your bank account, and then entering what your expected bill payments will be, as well as what your day-to-day spending habits are like. Filling up the tank with gas, getting your groceries. You enter the information in, the web app will show you different perspectives on your spending. You take a look through things, change what you can change, things that you have control over. Definitely some new ideas, new concepts being presented here. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to give us a call. The approach works. We want to get it working for you. Give it a try. This is the homepage. When there are no budget files, this is what it looks like. There are links to some of the help text here. The more complete help text is under help. Some for the personal side, some for the business side. Under My Account, that's where your personal information, your personal settings are. The email that you created the account with. If you want to change your password, this is where your personal verification questions are. The type of access. This is showing gifted time. If you're operating within the 30-day free trial period, this is where it would show. If you have a paid subscription, this is where it would show. The expiry date for your account, and applying an e-gift code. If you've been sent an e-gift code, this is one of the places you can do it. And applying an e-gift code extends your expiry date by a year. Anywhere you see the logo, click on it and it returns you to the home page. I'll create a personal file so you can see what it looks like to create one. This is what it looks like when you first created a budget file. But before I enter income and expense information into it, I want you to see what the home page looks like with a file created. And I did mention in my opening message that one of the concepts is that whatever budget you want to move forward with, you can actually see how it would play out in your bank account. So for that reason, a budget file should represent a bank account. If there's one person that has the bank account and has money coming into it, money going out of it, then you're doing it for one person. But it can also handle it, which is really great, if there's more than one person that has money coming in, or more than one person that makes bill payments, takes money out for personal spending, and so on. So it's great that way. And I'll start by adding an income. Just to make it a bit more real, I'm building an actual scenario here of a young woman. She was done college a few years ago, so she has a few years of work experience. She's living at home. She wants to work out if she can afford to move into a place of her own, or whether she needs to plan on sharing accommodations when she moves out. And you can put whatever you want for incomes and expenses when it comes to naming things, but there are some defaults in here. So this young woman gets paid weekly. And I'm going to say that this woman, the money goes into the bank on the Tuesday, but her bank puts a 3-day hold on it. And there's a number of things related to income that can make it confusing, make it unclear about exactly how much money is in the bank that's available to actually spend. So something that you can do within the web app is say when the money will actually be available for use. So in this case, it has a 3-day hold on it. Even though it goes in on a Tuesday, she doesn't have access to it till the Friday. Starting with next Friday. And another note when it comes to income is that something that can also throw things off. Optimism is great when it comes to putting together a budget. On the income side, if you put in what the minimum is that you're expecting, then if you get anything over and above that, you can have a plan for how you want to spend it. So in this case, she can realistically expect $720 right now to be landing in her bank account. And that factors in what the deductions are from this paycheck. So even though she's making $1,000 a week, by the time taxes come off of it, and if she has any association dues she has to pay, things like that. So putting in what will actually be coming into the bank account. And I've also clicked to customize the payment because, and again, I'll be putting in realistic numbers for this woman. She makes more money during certain months, certain times of the year. So in this case, it's December. And usually a couple of weeks into January. And that is, if somebody is accepting their first job, it is really important to be thinking about how much money will actually land in the bank account versus what your actual salary is. Because if there are association dues, maybe you have to pay for a portion of the benefits program. It's important to know things like that. The other thing that can be a problem when it comes to income is counting our chickens before they're hatched. So this lady, she does have a few years experience now. Sometimes the tax refund comes in by the end of April. There has been times that it's been May or June. So the latest she's ever received it is June 30th. So she thinks she's being pretty realistic to be putting in $650 that she'll get. And that it should be able to be in the account and her have access to the funds by June 30th. So let's see what things are looking like. So this is the income list. And it's found under the Income Expense Management menu. So between April 3rd this year and April 2nd next year, it would be $38,650 that would be landing in her bank account that she has available to use. Now I'll move into entering expenses. And just like incomes, there are certain things to do with expenses that can add some confusion, make it unclear as to how much money is available at any given time to spend. So when I enter the expenses, in this case, I'll be showing what you can do in the web app that can make things a little more clear as far as what you have available for spending. At this point, entering the rent is pretty straightforward. She's looked into it, and if she were to get a place of her own, a one-bedroom apartment, she'd be making monthly payments of $1,400. I'm going to customize it just in case a rent increase happens, that she can factor that in. And then utilities. And you can categorize these however you want. There are defaults, but you don't have to use them. One of the things that can happen with expenses that can make it unclear about what's actually left in the bank for spending. If you do the short-term budgeting that you're saying, here's what my upcoming paycheck is, and here are the expenses that have to come out of it, people will often use averages in there. So when it actually comes to a month where a bill is higher, it hasn't been accounted for within the budget, and it can cause problems. Within the web app, you can actually plan for having those periods where the expenses are higher and lower. So in this case, usually the utilities are $125 a month is what she can expect to pay based on talking to friends and what their experience has been. But they have said, when you're not needing to be running your equipment to have heat, then it's less. So there's certain times of the year that it will be a bit less. And again, based on their experience, she thinks it's realistic that the highest she'd be paying at certain times of the year would be $80 a month. So it's definitely better if you're using something that you can put in, that you can account for fluctuations in both income and expenses. And this young woman, she's still paying off her student loan. Customize it just in case there are times she has extra money that she can put towards it. She wants to do so. And the other thing that can come in handy when you're thinking about the future is to have an idea when certain payments will be coming to an end on the expense side. So in this case, with her student loan, she knows at the time she's creating this budget that she has 20 payments left to make. So just under 2 years and she'll be done paying off her student loan. And then there's also a car loan that she's working on paying off. And this, she's actually making payments twice a month. One payment on the first of the month, one payment on the 15th. And in this case, at the time she's doing this budget, she knows that her last payment is expected to be the 15th of August. Of 2025. And she's still somebody that likes to have a bit of cash on her. She takes out $100 on the day that she actually has access to the money in the account, which is the Friday. and customizing it in case there's times that she knows she'll want more cash on hand. And she has been saving some money each paycheck, and she doesn't want to stop putting some money away just because she's moving out. And she also has some money taken off when the money is expected to land in her bank account and be available for use. So again, having the money taken out on the Friday when the money's available. And she likes to think about gifts as being one type of expense, but it's not consistent week to week, month to month. So instead, I used a special schedule to do this. So she's thinking in terms of Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays. Another thing that can cause problems with expenses is thinking that an expense is a small one, not a big deal, but it's always good to factor in all expenses, regardless of how big or small they are. Something else to mention about expenses within the app, you can actually pay with a credit card within the app because this is truly intended to represent what your spending habits are. So if you are a user of credit cards, you can actually do that here. I won't be giving an example of it here. If you do want to use this app, then it's one of the things you can call in about to say you want to use the app. You do use credit cards to make payments. You want to know how to use that feature. So it is one of those times, if you do have any questions, call in. It costs nothing to find out how to use the features of the app. And let's see how things are looking. So there was $38,650 coming into the account between April 3rd and next year, April 2nd. But based on how she would be planning to live when she's out on her own, she would actually have a deficit of over $9,000. Something else that's built in, something else that can cause problems, or if you forget expenses or you've missed some, that can definitely be a big oops. So instead of just going based on this and saying there's only, there's a deficit of over $9,000, make sure there's no expenses that have been missed. So in this case, have put in a car loan, have also put in gas for the car. She had forgotten about automobile insurance, which is a huge deal. So yeah, it is built into the app. There's certain things it'll look for. If you put in one type of expense, it'll look for another to see if you've missed any. So in this case, she put in an auto loan, she put in gas for the car, but didn't put in automobile insurance. So now let's see what things are looking like. So now there's close to $11,000 that if she were to have a place of her own, it's really not affordable. It's not looking like it anyway. So before starting to look at things, seeing what changes would need to be made if she wants to be on her own, the other thing you can do, because some people like to know how much they're spending on needs-based spending versus discretionary spending. So before she gets too deep into things, we'll assign the expenses as either being needs-based or discretionary. So of the spending, there's close to $43,000 that's on needs-based spending and $6,600 on the wants-based spending or the discretionary spending. So I showed that one feature for not forgetting about expenses, making sure you haven't missed any before I go into things that she can look at to see if there's any changes that she can make. I'll talk about a few other features that are available to help you prevent missing expenses and forgetting about expenses. There's a comprehensive list of common expenses. So you can go through here. So in this case, maybe she's thinking about getting a pet. So she could enter an expense associated with that to see what things would look like. Auto league might be something she'd consider. She'll be on her own. So there is this expense list to go through. Just make sure you haven't missed anything. And the other one is a checklist that shows expenses that have been entered. So it's a way of getting a quick view to see if there's anything that jumps out at you that might be missing. And the other one I've actually demonstrated, but I haven't specifically said it relates to making sure you're not forgetting about expenses and not missing them. And that's the fact that when you enter your expenses, has to do with the payment frequencies. People that do the short-term budgeting, you'll name an expense, whatever it is that you want to pay out of your next paycheck. When you're doing the short-term budgeting, what you're actually putting in for payment frequency is right here, right now. Within the web app, you tell it how often the expense is being incurred. So you might have noticed that I was putting in weekly, monthly, twice a month. There was a couple of schedules in there that were a bit different. So by doing that, and you're setting it up, if you noticed on some of these, when it gives a start billing and a stop billing, that all has to do with the frequency. So instead of here and now, right now, you're telling it what day of the week, what day of the month. So you're telling it when to start. So in this case, it's a monthly expense if you're paying your accountant monthly. But you're also saying if it's something you expect to be paying out indefinitely, then you would say to never stop the billing because you're expecting it to be indefinitely. For the one loan payment, I selected after specified number of occurrences. For the other loan, I said after a specified end date. So that's also a way of not forgetting about expenses instead of just saying, yep, paying it this week and have to go in next week and enter it again. If it's a weekly expense, if it's a monthly expense, you put that in there. You don't have to remember it specifically anymore. That's why once in a while you go in and you review something like the checklist to see if there's been any changes. If there haven't been any changes, great. But otherwise, if there has been changes, you might look at something and say, yeah, there's something missing. Something has changed about my situation, and you can add it in. So it's just that one more feature that can help you remember more expenses, not miss as many, not forget as many. Hopefully you don't miss any because it can definitely be a problem to be forgetting about expenses. So this is the habits-based budget that I was referring to, based on how she would expect to live. At this point, there would be a shortfall of about $11,000 a year. And then looking at things another way, some people like to see how much is being spent in different categories. So how much is going towards debt, how much is going to insurance and savings. But again, you can put in whatever category you want. You can categorize things the way you like to see them. And the annual report is what people would typically be thinking of in terms of a budget. 38,650 coming in this case, and close to $50,000 that would be getting spent, leaving that shortfall of close to $11,000. So what would this woman do? She would probably be thinking, yeah, at this point, I can't plan on living on my own. So what would it look like if I shared accommodations? So she had entered $1,400 for rent based on being on her own. She decides she'll have a roommate, but having a roommate means automatically having to go to a 2-bedroom apartment instead of a 1-bedroom, or that's the preferred choice. Getting a 2-bedroom apartment, say it would be $1,600, which means her share would be $800. So now things are definitely looking better. There'd still be a shortfall in money overall for the year. So what are some other things that she can look at? So going through things, there are some things that could be changed, that she could reduce spending in. So she could work with her travel plans, can work with how much money she spends on her leisure activities. So there are opportunities here that she could spend less, but thinking about her options. So she's now saying that she'll share accommodations, so that's freed up some of her money. But she's not too sure about wanting to reduce spending in these areas. On the other hand, she also doesn't want to build up debt. She doesn't want to be having to access payday loans. So another choice that she can make is to get a part-time job. So what would it look like if she got the part-time job? So we'll say that she gets the part-time job. And if she works 15 hours a week, let's say 12, she looks into it based on what she can make, that she can reasonably expect to come in from a part-time job. She has it worked out that if she does about 12 hours, so if she does 3-4 hour shifts based on some things that she has been tempted to do at times to put away more money, what will that look like? So if she were to move out at the beginning of May and have a job that starts that she'd be making money by the end of May, or making more money by the end of May, what does it look like? Because she can plan on doing it for a year or two, see what she'd be okay doing. Now what do things look like? So now with that part-time job, she's able to still be saving some money. And in fact, she would end up with some extra money here that she can either put towards some more just personal spending into her leisure time. Maybe she'd save some more because she has thought about long-term wanting to be able to buy a home. So it might be something, if she decides to work part-time for a few years, she can be putting the money away towards a down payment on a home. So just some choices that you can see through going through here, different things that you can look at, different perspectives to be changing what you can change, what you have control over, to end up with that budget that you want to move forward with. And then after having a budget in place, thinking you're looking at something that you think you're happy with, how would things play out through the bank account? So say at this point in time, because she has been living at home for a few years, making some money, she has put some money away. But she didn't want to be planning on using up all that money just by moving out, right? So she did have some money put away. So with the part-time job, it's showing that she would still be getting ahead by about $5,000 a year. Take that part-time job out of the picture. So let's take that part-time job out of the picture to see what things would look like. So with that deficit of over $3,500 a year, if she proceeded with this budget, knowing that she had money in the bank to begin with, so starting out with that $15,000, after the first year, she'd be down to $12,000, or just under $12,000. So depending on the choices made, that's if things go according to this plan. And then let's see what would happen after the second year. If this was the plan that she moved forward with, after 2 years, then that $15,000, by not having that part-time job, she'd be down to under $10,000 in the bank. So it gives you an idea how to use this, different perspectives that you can have on your money, the choices that you can make when it comes to your budget. There are a couple of things that didn't come up as I put together this scenario. A couple of things that didn't come up as far as expenses go that people should consider. If you have arranged for a minimum amount to come out to go against credit card payments. Then something that you need to also factor in that some people inadvertently forget to factor in, if you're making only the minimum payment, there will be interest that you're paying on whatever remains on the card. So if that's the situation, then an expense should also be added for any interest, any admin fees, any service charges that'll be applied because of only making the minimum payment. And on another note, as far as whether it's rent or whether it's a mortgage goes, will one paycheck cover the whole amount of the rent or the mortgage payment? If it won't, then something to consider is factoring it in that you have to put aside so much money with each paycheck that would be going towards your rent payment or your mortgage payment. So instead of just saying on the first of each month, my rent is $1,200 or my mortgage is $1,500, then factoring it in to set aside $400 a week, $500 a week from each pay, whatever you need to set aside to make sure the money is there to make the rent payment or the mortgage payment. Other than that, yes, you probably have heard and seen some things in this video that are new concepts, new ideas. If you would like to try it out, please do. And if you do have any questions, either about the web app itself and how to use it, or about the approach that's behind everything, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We can answer some questions over the phone. Answering questions about how to use the app doesn't cost you anything. And if you actually need a visual, we can also set up a virtual meeting. So try it out, give us a call if you have any questions.